Okay, so Michael and I are going to tag team the discussion today. And by the way, how much time do we have?
Half an hour.
Okay, all right. So just kind of keep us on track, okay?
35 minutes.
Okay. So I'm going to talk to you about chatbots and kind of what they are, how they work. And you probably have all worked with chatbots before, but you probably didn't know they were chatbots. So, and then Michael's going to talk about infographics because he actually taught us how to do infographics. And so we have a handout, and I think what I'll do is just pass this around, and you can just take, it covers both of them. The first part will be the chatbot, and the second part, obviously, the last handout will be on the infographic. So, do you all know what a chatbot is? Have you? Okay. All right. So, a chatbot, you usually find it right now in one of two key places. Well, actually three. When I think about it. When you go on a website and after you're on it for so long, there might be this person that pops up that says, how can I help you today?
Oh, that's a chat.
That's a chatbot.
Is that a real person?
No, that's a computer. Okay.
Even if it says my name is Sarah?
Yes.
Okay.
All chatbots identify themselves with avatars that look like people.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other way you encounter a chatbot is typically through you're having a problem. Like I just had a problem with my Verizon phone the other day, and I was trying to figure out, because I switched from a 6 to a 10, and Michael was helping me out, but then he was home, and I was like, so the next morning I got onto my Verizon account, I signed on as me, they already knew it was me, and then it said, what do you want to do? Do you want to talk to someone? Do you want to chat with someone? Or do you want to email us this problem? You usually see one of the three. If you click chat, you're talking to a computer. You're not talking to a person. So the good news is I've done this twice. I've done it with Verizon and I've done it with 1-800-CONTACTS. And both times they could pull my record and walk me through the steps to, in the case of my phone, to activate my phone. In the case of my contacts, to return my contacts and get the right prescription. And that's a computer walking you through those steps, not a person. So, have any of you had a similar encounter where you, now that you think about it, you thought you were talking to a person on the computer?
Because they say, I'm typing.
Right,
you know?
right. They're not typing, they're just searching for the information.
I really thought that was Sarah or Bobby.
Yeah, right. So, what I wanted to talk to you and give you about information is chatbots are artificial intelligence. They are here. It's artificial intelligence. And there is human programming that's required. So what I was going to say, the third way, which you may have, do any of you have Facebook business pages? Okay. Do you notice that there's a messenger part of your page and you can actually type in the responses when somebody does a query? Like, hi, this is Laura. I'll get back to you within a day. And if somebody sends a query on your Facebook business page for the chamber, that's the chatbot. That's the chatbot taking.
Is that the thing that says this site normally responds within 24 hours or something?
No,
like that?
that's different. That's if I sent you a message. So if I sent you a message onto the chamber, and it was under Messenger. So that Messenger is a chatbot. So Messenger, not on our personal side, because we're in a, like if I'm messaging Michael, he's messaging me back, okay? He's a real person.
You don't know that.
He might be a hologram. But anyway, but on the business side, you can go in under settings and you can type different things for different questions. Like if someone said, what are your hours? What are your business hours? You can type Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 3:30, or whatever they
But
are.
you cannot type by appointment only. You cannot. It does not allow you.
Okay. Or you've tried it. Okay. Okay.
You can't. It
Because
wants
it-
hours.
Yeah,
It
because it
doesn't
wants
want by
a
appointment.
set response. It wants a set response because it only goes so far in the conversation with Messenger. But you could say, so there's a series of answers that you can kind of speculate what people will ask on Messenger, on Facebook Messenger, and you can have those answers ready. So if they ask those questions, those answers will pop up. So you don't.
So they'll look for the keyword.
Correct.
Hour,
Correct.
or
Yeah. Yes.
Reservation.
Right.
Or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
And is that easy to do? Easy to set up?
Through Facebook Messenger, pretty easy. Yes.
Huh.
Yes. But you're limited. You want to pick the top 3 or 4 questions that people typically ask you, versus they're not gonna like. Are you open on Labor Day? That's not a typical. The chatbot's not going to have the answer ready, you know.
Did you do that on your site, Janine?
It asked me when I set up events if I want people to respond in Messenger or have Messenger open, and I go yes, but I didn't know that end of it where I needed to put in answers to questions. I
Yeah,
thought
you
it was
do. You do
regular
have to.
Messenger.
Right, you do have to. It's under the settings part. You do have to set them, and it's not an infinite number of answers. It's like 3 or 4. So you want to choose the top 3 or 4 questions that people typically ask. Okay.
My dad runs a bar, or he owns a bar in Chicago, and the top 2 questions is always what is your hours and what's your menu, and we have that already set to go, because like every day I'll get on my phone, there'll be like 6 or 7 people asking me like what kind of food do we serve, and then we also have what are your specials today. Those are the top 3 we use.
So you can always have that in there because you know it's like what do they say? Frequently asked questions.
Yes, exactly, and that's what chatbots are instilled to do. Those facts, but the offerings, if you want to go the next step above, the next part of this, that handout, are 5 different offerings I just highlighted for you. And that's where artificial intelligence takes a whole new step. So what they're doing is, there's the 5 are Watson's Assistant, which is IBM's program, Bold 360, Rulia, Live Person, and in beta. And these are the top 5 that were identified by HubSpot. They're all a little different, but what the point is of these 5 versus like Facebook Messenger, because Facebook Messenger is like down here and these are like way up here, is they're learning. They're actually learning from the questions that are being asked. So like my example at Verizon, you know, I can't get my iPhone 10 to work because the SIM card isn't working properly. Then they're asking me a series of questions, I'm answering it, and they're learning from my responses. That still requires programming, but the artificial intelligence is taking over and actually learning from those keywords and how I'm integrating with those questions. So each individual transaction on these platforms is unique. Okay, so somebody, what I was experiencing is not maybe what you were experiencing, but the nice thing was I didn't have to go to a Verizon store. I got it all activated at home. You know?
Yeah. So it's kind of mind blowing
Right.
that exists. But like you said, you didn't have to leave home.
And I finished it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, and they could actually go and tell me exactly what to do with my phone. And they could see, they said turn your phone on, and they could see that, you know, they could go in. And it's kind of creepy, but it's also kind of time saving too.
And did they tell you to have a nice day at the end?
Yes.
It's wild.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you think you're talking to somebody, have a nice day. You too. And you're talking
And so the new thing with chatbots, actually one of these offerings, I think it's Live Person, and maybe you've gotten this before, is they will send you an email with exactly, have you ever gotten those where they send you an email with exactly what you chatted about, what their response was, what your response was, the whole string? Okay, that's the new thing that's coming out.
So you can refer
So
back to
you can actually see the whole string of your conversation. And I think they do that for accountability but also liability. So because it is a computer, it's not a person, so they don't have to record it, but they are recording it in that way. And then they're sending you a recording of the transcript. So,
I haven't had that yet.
so I know that you all are, well, not all of you are small business. Some of you are. There are some, these are
Not so small.
yeah. So you can check out these ones. Some of the pricing is actually pretty reasonable, but I will give you on the last page over here, I do give you cautionary, notes that you still need to hire a programmer. You still have to get somebody. It's not DIY yet. It's not like Facebook Messenger. You still have to get someone who knows natural language, who knows the program. So it's not, I think it will eventually get to, hey Siri, hey computer, blah, 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 do this. But right now it's sort of new. Chatbots have been around maybe 2 years, probably at the most. So it's sort of new, and it's being integrated, and you will see it more and more as you purchase things. You'll probably see it on Amazon. You don't see it right now, you just see the search bar on there. But as voice becomes more integrated too, but there are a lot of advantages to it. I mean, if you're a small business, you can have somebody on there or a system on there 24/7. Oh, also I do want to make a note. If the chatbot cannot answer a question, there's always a default, always, to send an email to you as the company representative. And that we'll have that thread of what happened, and then the chatbot will say, I'm going to have to turn you over to blah, and they will get back to you. So they don't always know all the answers, but like we just talked about, the top 5 questions that people ask over and over and over and over again. And if you could have an automated process and a process that learns, right? Kind of scary, but it's learning. But I would say today it's pretty expensive unless you have a really thin staff and you're getting thousands of questions that you're having difficulty managing. This is probably not something that's super affordable for a small business. Facebook Messenger is, because it's free, but none of these are free. They're all priced. You can try them. Even Watson Assistant you can try for 30 days and see if you like it. But you can check out the pricing. They do all have the pricing on their websites too. So, any questions?
Jennifer, does Edward Jones have chatbots at all? No? I didn't know. Are you looking for an agent or, whatever?
No.
No.
They would
Probably.
have a
I'm
search
sure it's
engine, but not a-
regulatory.
Yeah, but there are probably certain things that they could answer, like what are the hours? How many agents are in Macedonia? What are the office hours? Some things that are not regulatory. But it would depend on what you would want to do it based on that's what Michael just said is so true. What are the top 3, 4, 5 questions that people ask?
Yeah, I think it'd be good, for the name for the store.
So,
They look hard enough where all the regular information is.
The answers are all there.
95% of the answers are right there.
It's all there.
Can't hold them, that's all.
People don't look.
On the Facebook Messenger, that's talking to people, right?
yeah, the computer's talking to people who inquire, right?
Right.
and then you can have answers. And then if there's not an answer that the chat can pull based on keywords, because it's going to pull the keywords, then it will just leave the message in the inbox. So you will just, next time or if you have a messenger, it will just have like a number there that you have a notification of a message.
But now, the Facebook Messenger is different from the messenger that's on your business Facebook page.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I'm talking about the business
the one.
side.
Oh, the
That's the
business
biz
side.
side, not your
Okay.
personal. The
Regular
personal.
Messenger, we're just
Yeah.
really
No.
talking person to person. There's no
Right,
bots.
right.
Yeah,
No
right.
bots.
No
No
bots.
bots. No
Okay.
bots.
It's
Yeah.
just people, but when you get to your business
Facebook.
page, that's when you get
Yeah.
into.
And a lot of these ones that I pulled, they will actually integrate with Messenger too. So a lot of times they will integrate with other bots that are out there, so that you have kind of one dashboard and you can put the same questions out to multiple platforms instead of having, oh, I got to go on Messenger and do this, and oh, I got to go over here on the website and do that. And so they will integrate that all in one platform, one dashboard.
See, now this isn't stuff that we necessarily need to know, but I think we need to know about it. You know what I mean? As long as we're in business and technology is growing and growing, you know, we need to at least be familiar with some of these things. I mean, we're not going to all, run back and say, I need what's assistant or whatever. But you need to know about it.
But I would keep your finger on the pulse over time, because what's going to happen is there will be more of these offerings and the cost will come down and the usability will go up. So what I would suggest is just periodically, every half year or so, just kind of look at what's going on with AI chatbots, because eventually, just like websites, you really don't need a programmer to build a website anymore. You need somebody that knows how to do the UX part of the website, but you don't really need a programmer. There's templates, and I think this will become more template driven, and as long as I will make one caveat that everything here is cloud based, so you just have to be comfortable with everything being up in the cloud, because that's where the natural language is going to reside. That's where it's going to learn from the answers, and it's going to reposition the questions based on the frequency of the same answer.
Another use that I actually seen this past year, I am from Chicago. A friend of mine owns a hunting store, very small business, and they carry a lot of inventory though, but on his website, if you want to inquire about some gear, you can go on their site, check their inventory, and that AI will notify them when it's in stock as soon as they scan it in from shipping, or as soon as, let's say, a week later, not thinking about it, you're gonna get an email saying, hey, like, you still looking for so and so? Like, it's on sale this week too. There's
That's all
those
part
systems.
of the chatbot.
Well, it's same system. It's AI. It's AI.
And I'll give you one more example, and then I'll turn it over to Michael. So I didn't know this, but I listened to this podcast a few months ago. The majority of college students drop out between their high school graduation and their entrance into college only because they forgot a form, they missed the housing registration deadline, they didn't know who to go for financial assistance. And this one college, I can't recall the name, it was a small remote college, actually put a chatbot on their system, on their website. And they programmed it with all these questions that incoming freshmen could be asking them. And they had a dropout rate of about 20% of the people that they accepted that just missed deadlines, couldn't get housing, whatever.
I made it.
And they went down to 7% just by implementing the chatbot. Just by implementing the chatbot, because this generation likes to integrate with chatbots, and it's like text messaging. It is really formatted like text messaging. And they don't care that they're talking to a computer.
I want the answer.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
right.
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 Oh my God.
Well, and they're doing it at 11:30 at night or 12:30
That's what I
at night.
like. There's no time limit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, you're only, and then especially if they're in a different zone,
Right.
you know, you're here and it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, you can't talk to California because it's 6 in the morning. You know, and
Right.
you're like, shoot,
Right.
I don't have time now.
Right.
Cool. Very cool.
Okay.
Good information. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
I
Michael.
understand more.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael.
Okay, infographics. So does anybody know what an infographic is?
Yes. Those
I'm
are fun.
assuming it's just like, it's like a, in my head it's like a flyer.
Yeah, of sorts. The whole point of an infographic is to distill advanced ideas or information down to something very basic or easy to follow. So any kind of content or information you're trying to push to your audience is easy to absorb, and it's a bit more fun and attention grabbing. So I have a couple points here about making a good infographic. What makes an infographic good? One is creating it and tailoring it to your audience. So I was actually going to use an example with yarn.
Just go open the store.
Oh, well, dang. Well, so let's say that your target audience is school teachers. Maybe a cool design would be like a chalkboard, and all of your content is delivered. It looks like you're writing it in chalk, and all your charts and diagrams. It's very it's not purpose driven, more something relatable. Like, let's say you're a plumber and you use pipelines in your chart to make it flow better. You know, it's punny stuff like that.
You shouldn't cross those so that it's like really kitschy, you know? It's like,
Pardon?
you don't want to get too
cutesy, too childish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my points is keeping a good balance between your text and your icons. A little bit of too much can be very choppy, and it can look unprofessional. Moving forward, like if you put too much information, it's going to be like an information overload. You know, it's not going to really make sense to someone if you're not kind of like telling a story. From top to bottom, you're going to have it's like writing a paper. Here's your introduction, here's your 3 main points, and here's your conclusion. That covers keeping it focused. Showing things visually. Let's say that you are you said your next meeting is about medical marijuana in the workplace. You can show statistics with medical marijuana, how many people use it in the workplace, how does it affect their performance, like what states is it legal in, and how's their employment rates. Stuff like that, where you're focused on a main point but representing plenty of data to back up that point, makes it, I wouldn't say relatable, interesting and more engaging.
Impactful.
Impactful. So, I mean, I'm part of the generation where marijuana is cool, dude. No, I'm just kidding. But that's something where if I read that, and if someone in your generation reads it, we can still grasp the same point that you're going for. Making it easy to view. So again, information overload is something you want to avoid. You want to make sure that your text it doesn't make it hard for someone to see it. I know here in black and white, it's some of the text is kind of a bit difficult to read, but again, adding color to it, making sure your text pop, and make sure your icons also have the same color schemes, makes it flow better and getting easier to get the information. The whole point right here is to make sure that information gets across to your audience in the simplest way possible, and something that's going to make them remember it as well. Managing the length and size. So I was looking online, I was looking through a lot of examples, and the recommended size is about 8,000 pixels. So I know that's not something easy to measure, but basically the size of a typical handout like this is more than enough. If you can't fit all your information on that, you're writing a blog. Yeah.
And we actually integrate, Michael does and I do and the team does integrate these into our blogs. So if we're getting a very stat-oriented blog, like he said, a lot of information, we'll write information up here, and then we'll have the infographic, and then we'll have the takeaways at the bottom. So you can actually integrate it in.
It's a really helpful tool to make sure that you're not being too wordy, and let's say you're writing a paper on using gas cars versus electric cars, you can have an infographic throughout your text to show maybe the cost-benefit analysis or how much mileage does each car get.
So it's different information than what's in your blog? Or it's the same information but clearer?
Usually it's different,
Okay.
but you'll usually have some sort of intro before and some conclusion after. And a lot of times we've used it where there's multiple sources too. So rather than say, according to blah, 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 according to this, you have, which I think you're getting to, but at the bottom of an infographic, you can just cite all your sources from the infographic versus, oh my gosh, I gotta cite this link and that link and that link. You're covering yourself by citing the sources, but you're doing it in a more
concise
and
It's also giving you credibility as well. Checking your facts and figures is always something you want to do before you publish something with your name on it. Citing your sources, New York Times, The Hill, CNN, any of those news sources, or maybe any statistical sources, that is adding credibility to your infographic, making that information more believable and more real world. Has anybody used APA or MLA style citing? So there's a website called Easy Bibliography. I use it in college still. I should know how to cite my sources by now, but it's so easy. It's a great site for wherever you pull your source from, you enter in the article or the paper, who wrote it, and the date you accessed it, and it's going to give you your cited sources in alphabetical order and the day it was accessed, which is technically the way you should do it. And it's super easy to use if you're ever using blogs, doing marketing posts or anything like that.
Like footnotes?
Yeah, exactly.
Back in our day, there were footnotes, right?
This one doesn't have sources.
Oh, I think it's cut off. I think right.
It was cut off at the bottom.
Yeah.
When I was printing.
Yeah, we were just
I
kind of.
didn't know if it was in here somewhere.
Isn't another point to make it non-scroll? That you
Non-what?
you want to be able to see
it all
full
at one time.
graphic
Mhm.
without having to scroll. Up and down.
Ideally, but it's not always possible. You
Especially if
know,
you're on mobile.
ideally,
There are different formats.
yeah. I mean, like if you're tying the if you're tying the infographic to a social post, it's only going to show like the top portion. It's going to cut it off, but what we recommend when we do blogs is we do the blog title and then we do in parens infographic, so people know that there's an infographic integrated in the blog, and that's best practices too. Don't let them be surprised, just let them know that there's an infographic there.
How do you do that?
Well, so we do the title, and then in parens at the end of the title you just say infographic, so the reader knows when they open it up they're getting an infographic. So but I just pulled an infographic yesterday and it is long. It was about the latest everything on SEO, like everything you need to do to get your SEO higher. And it's like three pages. It's like 3 pages long. So I think, you know, we're learning about infographics kind of like we're learning about video. It's like, how long does it take you to express your message so the user wants to read it, right? And you're giving them useful information. So if you can do it in 1 second or one graphic, but if you have to go longer, you know, you do.
A lot of times links are within that infographic.
Sure.
And you go to scroll and all of a sudden you're jumped to that link.
Right.
That's annoying.
Yes.
Annoying. Yeah, and you all of a sudden you hit it the wrong way and you're like, oh, I gotta go back.
But should open a new a new tab, hopefully, but not always.
Yeah.
No one should still be up there though.
Well, this is all in its infancy, you know, and we're all kind of still, I mean, amazing learning. Like, just when you think you learned something, you're like, oh, there's another one. Tell
them about, we use there is a free infographic that you can use.
It's called PictoChart.
PictoChart, P-I-K-O, right?
P-I-K-T-O.
T-O, yeah.
PictoChart.
.com.
You get your first 5 free, but if you delete those 5s or save them, you can keep reusing them. So you didn't hear that
Was
from
that a
me.
wink there?
Yeah.
What was that again?
P-I-K-T-O. Chart.
Chart?
Chart.
Oh, chart.
Take the what?
PictoChart. So it's a free program that lets you. I mean, they have a lot of free icons, text options, backgrounds, all that kind of stuff to make a pretty
It's
good
like a
info.
template?
Yeah.
More or less, you can pick your. It's really good DIY because he's taught us, and you pick it up pretty easily. But you can choose your backgrounds. You can add photos. You add these sort of things, stats. You add your graphics.
They also have a system in there where when you're placing your text or icons on your template, that it shows you lines to where center of the page, top is in line with this. It keeps everything nice and clean and straight. And I'm OCD about that kind of stuff. And if something's like not right next to each other, I'll lose my mind. So very good tool. I highly suggest it. I created at
Because I
least.
used to drag stuff into Photoshop and
Right.
you know what I mean.
Right.
So this is
Yeah, and you can upload your own photos. It also has it's access to Unsplash too, right?
Yeah. You can
Yeah,
use
so it
Unsplash.
has royalty-free photos. If you're looking for a photo, you just type in the keyword you're looking for, and it will bring up those. I think, Laura, you could use an infographic for your chamber events,
Oh,
even for your chamber events.
And for benefits as well.
Sure.
You know,
It's just-
I think there's a lot of, I didn't even really know what an infographic really was.
Yeah.
So this is like opening up a lot of opportunities for you.
Right.
That's like a PowerPoint.
It's
Yeah.
it's a little different than PowerPoint.
Of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can download it as a JPEG or a picture and then put it in a PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's true. You can, you make it a pic.
And
just-
go on.
Yeah, you just have to be careful because the rendering generally is vertical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, versus horizontal,
I believe you can rotate it.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you're designing it.
I would. One more thing, and then I'll let you say. The first time you do this, I would give yourself a couple hours because you're learning. It's not difficult, but you're still learning. You know what I mean?
Around.
You're playing around with it, and But then once you it's like riding a bike. Once you get the hang of it, you're going to be faster and
That's like
faster.
5 minutes. We'll be doing this in 5 minutes. We'll be like, wow, look at Laura and her cool
I
stuff.
just don't know that that's going to happen, but.
Go
I
ahead.
have faith in you. You're good at
Go
that.
ahead, Michael.
Just add white space.
Mhm.
You know, how do you know?
We don't want to be
My
too visually
flyers,
distracting.
They all look the same because I keep doing the same thing. How do you know when you have too much white space?
So, I was going to put this example in here, but it gave me a headache by just looking at it. So, like, you can, let's say, like, right here, this is actually a good example of an infographic, our story.
Yeah.
See, they got it all, I mean, it kind of looks like a collage, and again, it's like a family restaurant from what I hear. But if you saw more and more text on there, do you think it would be more difficult to follow and read?
Yeah.
So white space is just letting your audience eyes focus on exactly what you want them to focus on. Because if you don't guide them throughout the infographic, they're just going to get lost in the information that you're presenting. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, they say physically your eyes get strained and your brain stops thinking anymore.
And it needs to be, like number 9. Focus on the flow. It needs to be a flow. I think that's what I'm. Yeah.
Because that does have a flow, just even by being kind
Beginning,
of moved around
inspiration,
like
growth.
that.
I should have put that down there.
So my recommendation would be kind of like take some post-it notes if you're doing it the first time, and just kind of play with your messaging on a piece of paper, and then pull up the infographic and then pull it in, because then you kind of know what you want. to say or present.
Well,
And-
there's not actually a call to action here.
No, there
So
isn't.
we don't want to sign up today.
No.
We're just giving information.
Yeah, it's like a supporting argument, kind of like if I want to like here the time we spend on the internet, if I want to convince you that you're wasting like 150 hours a year on the internet, I'm going to use these statistics to prove what you can do with that time. And then in my blog where the infographic sits, I'm going to go into detail then. Like, you have this many hours according to the infographic. Here's how you can utilize your time better, and here's how you can be more successful, less stressed, maybe go out more, get drinks with the ladies. I don't know. Still.
Gotcha.
And at the end, you could have a call to action to something.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
There. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what, Laura?
I said at the end of that, you could have a call to action, but the infographic is just giving you the information.
So maybe
You know.
here, Laura, is where you would utilize this space for maybe the benefits of the chamber and the money that you can save on health insurance, and you can do the statistics of a small business doing it on their own versus utilizing the chamber to do that.
I used
right?
one on I'm in a fraternity at University of Akron, and I made our website, and on our website I have an infographic of being in Greek life, not just my fraternity. Here is the success rates. Here are the top CEOs in the Fortune 500 who were fraternity men. Like 60% of US presidents were fraternity men. That's just a little supporting detail there to kind of get people to rush my fraternity.
So the focus is on information.
Yeah. Distilling very complex ideas or information.